How's it going, everyone? This is Dixon of the Ultimate Gamer Realm logging on, and I hope everyone's 2006 is doing well. And today I'm going to take a look at one of the most important magazines that I found back in 1995, 31 years ago. There's a lot of cool things that happened Of course, little I knew at the time, I was still into 16-bit gaming, or console gaming, which was the 16-bit era. And this was actually months before I got my first CD-ROM console, which was the add-on, the Sega CD. Of course, I played the 3DO console prior to reading this magazine, where I played Alone in the Dark. The first Alone in the Dark game on the 3DO console, along with many other games at the kiosk at local Fred Meyer's. Sometime in 1995, I actually managed to find this PC Gamer magazine. Even though this is mainly for PC gaming, I have to admit, some of this stuff in here looks pretty awesome. And it makes me want to get a home computer myself, even though home computers were more expensive and they were a different story back then when it comes to running game programs on home computers. A little bit more complex than running modern home computer games today. However, this PC Gamer magazine introduced me to a lot of PC gaming and introduced me to the concept of PC gaming, as well as to introduce me into awesome full motion video CD-ROM type games, as well as technology. And this PC Gamer issue that we're looking at is from April 1995. So I guess I got this magazine early 1995, around March. Usually they actually send a month issue ahead of time. That's how I remember it. And I can tell you another thing. This magazine is a gold mine. I had an awesome time looking at the pictures and reading the articles and learning a little bit about PC gaming around that time, even though I didn't get a chance to play the games that were in that magazine until years later. And thanks to RetroMagazines.com, I managed to find this issue so I could revisit it. I don't remember what exactly happened to the original, the physical one I bought years ago, but at least I'm glad I found a digital version online in the archive from RetroMags, so I can revisit the past on how awesome it was that I discovered these games, which was many years I finally get to try most of them out, unless if they're third-party console releases of some of those games, which there were. And now I'm also very happy that I'm finally talking about this memory. Now let's get started. And I also remember this one having a demo disc of Jungle Strike, which I can play that on the Sega Genesis, the whole trilogy. Even brought this disc to school though, so I can play in my free time. Of course, it only runs on PCs. And the schools had Macintosh computers. Very little bit I know between home computers and regular PCs that are IBM versus Macintoshes from Apple are two different things. I didn't really notice that at the time. Anyway, let's zoom out a little bit so we can get the full page. Doom Killer. Yeah, this is Descent. Of course, DOS Wars, Warp versus Windows 95, which is best for gamers. Well, of course, Windows definitely has more of improvements though, but I also have fond memories of DOS gaming, of course. DOS games are always going to live on and be forever as well, just like Windows games from the 90s. Reviewed Hectic. Let's just take a look inside, see what my memories are. The DOS Wars. Both Microsoft's new Windows 95, which was definitely a new thing at the time. The Doom Killer, Descent. I wouldn't call it a Doom Killer, but it is a killer indeed. Las Vegas Report. This year's winter Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, wish I could have been there, wasn't the most exciting show ever, but we did get a chance to see some Windows 95 titles. And there's Please help me, I'm falling. Please help me, I'm falling. And I can't get it up. Giddy up. CD. Installing, playing, quick tips. Yeah, CD-ROM gaming was still catching on during that time too, especially on home computers itself. Welcome to the CD, your chance to try out the best of what's new in gaming. Quite true. This month on CD, we're bringing you Descent and Heretic, two of the hottest new shareware games around, as well as LucasArts' Full Throttle. Right to your PC. And ain't CD what it's all about? Okay, that's all. Alright, let's just get to the point. Now here's another interesting game that caught my attention. Under a Killing Moon. Which little bit I know it was another part of the series called the Tex Murphy series. Access brings you the greatest virtual world interactive movie. Now, this was definitely another experience that I witnessed. It makes me want to have a home computer because something like this sounds more like up my alley because I'm always into private detective stuff and cyberpunk stuff and film noir stuff. This is pretty much up my alley. And looking at it first glance, I kind of thought that looks like a pretty badass game. I wanted to get a computer for this game because that's something I like. Always back then, even cyberpunk, full motion videos. Nowadays, I have access to that. I like to get into the Tex Murphy series eventually from the first one to the end. Descent, which was a popular release at the time. Of course, I played the PlayStation 1 back in 1996, but definitely the real way to play is the PC version of the game, which you can get on digital distribution. I played the modified version of it, though, of course. I mean, use the mods for the HD resolution visuals. Rise of the Triad, The Dark War. This one I also had a pretty interesting crush on at the time, this game. I wish I also had a computer to play that one. I heard good things about that one. But once again, I finally got around to playing that one years later on digital distribution, and they recently released Night Dive Studios, along with New Blood, recently released a remastered version called the Ludicrous Jibs version, which is pretty awesome. And it's also available on consoles now, too. Nitropolis. Back then it was Electronic Arts that did that game, but Night Dive Studios recently re-released that one digitally on Steam and GOG, not remaster. However, this one looks pretty interesting, especially with that image. With that vampire babe kind of like looking right at you. That image was so intimidating, I'll tell you that for sure. And that image, of course, I never forgotten. Definitely got to get in that game eventually. Another one I like to get into. Reacher Shock is another game. You also have this on the 3DO. Alone in the Dark 3. Now, following a year before that, of course, I played the first Alone in the Dark game out of 3DO in Kios at local Fred Meyer. Well, when I discovered Alone in the Dark 3, that's how this magazine is how I discovered it, and the advertisement looks pretty cool. And speaking of Alone in the Dark, I just got done with story review on Alone in the Dark 2, so I got the first two games done. I'm currently working on this one right now. Well, however, this is how I discovered Alone in the Dark 3. It's from this magazine, and the advertisement looks pretty badass and intimidating. And I'll tell you much more about this advertisement in the book when I do this when I do this in the story review episode. Right now, let's just move on. All right, let's go. Well, can't wait till I get to that one. Next, XCOM: Terror from the Deep. Now that's a cool advertisement. To destroy the base on the Mars, you thought that was the end of them. But beneath the Earth's raging seas, They're furry bales. The furry bales with a vengeance. Your worst nightmare is just beginning. Okay, I'll bear that in mind. My commander, Wrath of Gods. Oh, look at the Wrath of Gods. I also remember this image. Cyclops. Holy shit. Wrath of Gods. I got to look for that one. Yeah, I remember trying to use that on Macintosh at my school by bringing that to school on my free time. Of course, it couldn't run because, well, I know it was, I didn't know the difference between the home computers. I mean, between the computers of regular PC computers and Macintosh computers. So that's why I learned the difference at the time. 1830, railroads and robber barons. Welcome to the 19th century. Interesting. Another one of those railroad. Is it a railroad tycoon or a real-time strategy? If I have time, I'll probably check that out. The Scroll from Victor. Now this one looks kind of interesting. If you're going on Egyptian hunt for artifacts, maybe. Some things are better left dead and buried. Perhaps you're right, and it's kind of hard to read the text with all that gold behind and with all this font color being blended in. Looks interesting though, at least. Discworld. I remember renting this game on the PlayStation. It's actually one of the rare titles these days. It definitely is an interesting game, but I didn't know how to play it at the time. There's also a sequel to that, but I'll probably look into that one sometime again too. Rash Race. Something I remember. It's from Take-Two Interactive at the Take-Two Interactive. Oh. It's like going back to Mosaic era. Only this time you get to walk upright. I'm sorry, I got bad reading sometimes, bad pronouncing, whatever, how you pronounce it. Lost Eden's also on digital distribution, and it's also a pretty interesting game. I actually checked that one out. Zoom in a little bit. I like being in the world of with dinosaurs and all that. Blast from the Past goes on Windows. Nice. Black Diamond Electric Arts is collaborating with Colossal Pictures, the group behind MTV's Strange, stylish liquid television series, on an interactive thriller, essentially titled The Black Diamond. An adventure game will tell you of Eric Fox, psychic who squanders his special talents, until he runs into a mystery woman who shows him how to use fullness. Soon, Fox is caught up in the film noir style quest adventure for top secret psychic collectors built by the former Soviet Union's Black Diamond. Was scripted by Michael Kaplan, co-writer of Peter Billingham. Okay, I'm done. But anyway, Psychic Detective game is actually a pretty interesting game. They call it Black Diamond here, but it's actually Psychic Detective. I guess they changed the name to Psychic Detective. That was released on the PC and the 3DO console, and also had a limited release on the PlayStation. I remember renting the PlayStation version from the local video store, but the only time I saw it. Wish they could release that on digital distribution, though, or do an HD version of it. Alchemac 3V Ultimate Gaming Machine. That looks pretty badass for the time. Australia gives us the bird. Something like this, right? I know, I'm joking. Bullfrog, it's over to EA. Yep. Yep, I mean, that's why they own the rights now. Oh yeah, this is where I also learned about Star Wars Dark Forces, which was released on PlayStation console a few years later. I played the PlayStation version, of course the real way of playing is on the PC, but the better way now is the remaster version, which is also available on current consoles. Control freaks rejoice. Yeah, I would like to have a good custom controller that's kind of like the 6-button Sega Genesis 6-button, except it has the shoulder buttons and the triggers. I like to have 6 buttons on the front and also kind of like a start and select button. And also have 2 thumbsticks and a D-pad. I like to have them all in once. Okay. That would be a good one for ultimate emulation. Plus also have an attachment for a numeric keypad if you want to play the Atari Jaguar games. The cover story for Descent. Don your VR helmet and keep the air stickness. Keep the air stickness bags close at hand. Alright, which hand? Alright. Of course, you're right. Whatever hand you use, I use as right or left. Interplay's true 3D shooter is a ride you'll never forget. From Dan Bennett. That's pretty much was something. That'll be cool. That would be pretty awesome if they can do a game like this in VR with the old style graphics and you feel like you're there. Listen to that jamming soundtrack, which the soundtrack is pretty fucking awesome. I love looking at these magazines, and I still do back then and today even revisiting them. I don't have the original magazine. I don't know whatever happened to it. I'm pretty sure I didn't throw it away though, or when I throw it away by accident, I usually get rid of them. But to me, that issue was pretty much a gold. The magazine, the PC Gamer magazine, was a gold mine. Never got much into Avengers D&D games, but even though some do look pretty interesting, this one at least looks pretty interesting though. But these games are available on GOG though and Steam. A more look, Descent was pretty much the popular one. Mortal Kombat 2 on PC was being released. Of course, they already had the console release months ago, and it was released on either 3.5 inch, but the PC version was released on either 3.5 inch floppy disk or PC CD-ROM. Definitely would have to go with the PC CD-ROM. Of course, that game's on GOG as well, but then again, probably the only real way of playing is the arcade version. DOS Wars, now it's kind of a cool image for the arm wrestling contest. Of course, I'm certain not all of them have its own advantages, though, but of course, Windows programs obviously the future to run games on, though, especially if you want to get things simple, make this game simplified. Here's one for System Shock here. Original, of course. Of course, Night Dive Studios did a remaster of that game with the Enhanced Edition back in 2015, and they did a remake of the game, and of course, they re-released Enhanced Edition of the second one, so they called it 25th Anniversary Edition. That one's a pretty good one. They did a pretty good job with those ones. They put a lot of safe into games. Now, this is where I'm going to get down and dirty. Yes, this is definitely another interesting moment in this magazine that I found. The existence of adult CD-ROM games, or adult computer games that is, such as this one, Space Sirens, the ultimate cyber sex simulator. Now, this is something I want to get my hands on. Of course, I waited later years to finally get around to it once I got it figured out. Of course, getting games like this is kind of hard to come by nowadays on physical copies. But I managed to get around playing games like this these days. Yeah, quite impressive. It's always fun looking back into it, or looking into the actual games for the first time ever since seeing the advertisements. Another thing what's interesting is I can't really believe that gamer magazines and local stores is allowed to, PC gamer magazines can get away with advertising stuff like this in the magazines. Eventually, they stopped doing that during the late 90s or early zeros, but it's pretty interesting that they did something like this. Now, these type of games should come on GOG from Pixis Interactive. Games like this one and Nero Dancer. However, Nero Dancer actually had a 3DO console release. That's the only one from Pixis Interactive. However, 3DO did get some adult games that are from Vivid. That's pretty interesting. Even though they're not hardcore, some of them are kind of a little bit censored out compared to the real version, just to fit on CDs. But still, you can see TNA though. However, Space Sirens is definitely one game I want to get my hands on, and I eventually got around to it years later. And there's more adult games in this magazine too, or advertisement. Of course, don't expect to see any nude or anything, of course. This is definitely not a nude magazine. Definitely wouldn't show nude here regardless on YouTube. I don't want to get striked. Gaming magazines from all sorts back in the 80s and 90s used to be awesome, especially the PC gaming magazines where it actually has adult advertisement type games. Of course, they quit doing that eventually, and then PC gaming magazines pretty much suck nowadays, though, because of identity politics getting involved on bullshit. Indie, de- Indie desktop adventures. There's also Star Wars desktop adventures. Okay, Kingdom Far Reaches. I'm not familiar with that, but it looks kind of interesting. Here's another one here. Another adult game here. It was not exactly a TNA type of game, I don't think. Definitely not a TNA game, but it's a sexy woman involved. Virtual Vegas presents this Metaverse Pageant. Double disc CD-ROM game. Yep, I have the physical copy of it, along with the regular Virtual Vegas. Let's take a double disc CD-ROM game for Mac, Windows, and 3DO. Unfortunately, the 3DO never did got a version of the game, though. That's the sad thing. And of course, Virtual Vegas. There's supposed to be more Virtual Vegas games like poker, but I never got a release of that one either. Yeah, that one was this one's definitely amazing. At least this game was easy to find and easier to run too. Deathgate. Deathgate. Overload. That's another game I remember discovering. They also had a PlayStation version of the game too, which I rented and I actually currently own. And it's actually an underrated title. They should also find this game and bring it back too. Not Dig Dug and rule with an iron fist. Iron fist. Iron assault. Ah, this one made me iron fist. Iron fist. Iron butt. Iron butt. Casino. Uh-huh. Not the casino game I actually did last year, though. Siberia is another underrated title, which I actually had memories playing this one on the PlayStation when I rented it. Then I got it on the Saturn. I also have the 3DO version, and now it's on GOG. And there's also the sequel, which was PC exclusive, of course. One was a pretty good title. And Descent. Descent into Madness. I won't say madness, but descending. Next generation. I should make magazines that are like previous generation. Dreamweb. Now this is something that probably should look into. Sounds like another cyberpunk adventure, though. Probably trying to. Clock keeps going round. I want to tell me the time Santa Claus gave gun to me. Let loose the puppies at war. I died cat last night. Handwriting so bad, but probably he was in desperate position. And those are his last words. I think I've seen the advertisements for this game before. I need to look that up a little bit more. Zeppelin. Okay. Economic strategy game. May be interesting to look into, especially if it has the filters of the beginning of the 20th century. Probably might listen to Led Zeppelin albums at the same time. Bureau 13. What agency Progress doesn't fuck with? Okay. Another Take-Two game. Yeah, definitely another game. Take-Two games from the 90s need to make a comeback. All they focus these days are like on Grand Theft Auto or anything Rockstar games or 2K games. I want to bring back the old retro games. Yeah, I guess this is the previous magazine that has Dark Forces on the cover, and it has a playable demo of Black Form, which was actually the more superior version than the two console ports. I mean, I do like the 32X version and the Super Nintendo version, even though the Super Nintendo version is censored. If you want to play all versions of them, you can play them all on the Blizzard Entertainment Collection. Brain Dead 13. That's another game advertisement I've seen over everywhere, though, back then in magazines for all platforms. Need to look more into that game myself. Live action football. Too bad I'm not much into football, though, but pretty impressive, though, at least. Vortex. Quantum Gate Tool. Probably should check that one out. Deadline. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Advertisement looks pretty good. One wrong move and he's dead wrong. PC Game and Gun. Oh, remember the game gun that was available on all platforms for American light gun games? Which I hope they bring these type of games back and kind of like use for point and click mouse adventure, or actually use a gun attachment, or do a VR, or actually make a VR version of the games. I mean, but to still have the interactive motion videos, except you're using your VR controller as a gun. I mean, those games were pretty damn awesome, the full motion video games and all that. Or full motion video railgun shooter types. I miss those types. I mean, at least the PlayStation 3 had some of those type of games. And I was hoping they actually, that uses the motion controller, and they were pretty good with them for the time. Especially for the time. Just hope they kind of bring those back in the VR world today. Heretic was so awesome to look at back in the day, but they had some. But nowadays, I can pretty much look at them when I'm facing the bad guys in the game. Pirates, gold. Sid Meier's gold. Pirates, gold. Base Ward Ho. Space Ward Ho? Are you trying to tell me the Space Ward is a hoe? Hold down this, hold down that, hold down that. I know. New World Computing, Inc. Retribution, Someone's Interactive. Astro Productions. Maybe. Verdict Choice, only got a good score. Okay, the Thrustmaster. And they definitely make good flight sticks and steering wheel peripherals. I actually have one of the. Forgot what the flight set from Thrustmaster. That includes the pedals, but I'm going out one day. I'm going much further to this. I don't want to bore the shit out of anybody. I'm not trying to do that. Battletech Battledrome. Developer Dynamics. Battling Robots. Not bad, but I said Drad, the hunt begins. You already seen that advertisement earlier? Harpoon 2. Alright, I'll just scroll down. Okay, Bug Patches. Yeah, hell, cyberpunk thriller. That uses the Diamond Viper card. Quarantine's another one. Another adult advertisement. See More Butts 2. See More Butts Interactive 2. Pursuit and Pleasure. Welcome to Canada. It's a 2-disc CD-ROM game. 2 even buddier than the first one. Buddier. New machine, interactive, mission control, mission complete. Barry has that woman's bra. Well, even though they don't match the panties. There's actually magazine advertisement for games here. From Mission Control. I think that's the store company that sells these games. Rory House. Let's zoom in a little more on these. Oh, wait a minute. CD-ROM headquarters. These are the Razer games. IBM games. These are Razer games too. Well, they sell Razer games too. Then $5 for our 32-page adult game. Let's get to the dirt stuff. Yeah, this is all the dirt stuff there. Oka Party! Whoa. Let's see what's trying to zoom in on those juggernauts. Woo. Zoom in on those. Featuring Kathy Willett. Play against 6 beautiful opponents. Combines full motion video we love this game for $50. Wow, if I can find that one, I'll definitely play the poker. Been playing Virtual Vegas time to time. And there's Seymour Butts again, and Space Sirens again. Pixis Interactive. You venture into domain alluring and the alluring of the beautiful space sirens, only to realize that you've been entrapped in the VR chamber to fulfill your very desire. Which is definitely nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can read the other half of the page, but I guess not. Those virtual vixens, scissors and stones, Neo Dancer. I know Neo Dancer was also on the 3DO console. That's the only one from Pixis Interactive that made a 3DO version. In fact, I have that one too. There's other interesting titles. New Wave Hookers. Then that one had Ginger Lynn in it. I don't remember. I watched part 1. I watched part 2. That's it. Enter the Seymour Butts. That's the first game. Session. Dream Machine. I dream of a machine where I can get all these retro games from the 90s like these ones. Vampire's Kiss, Virgins 2, Adam's Family, Elite. Okay. American. Then Japan 86 Gentlemen. Direct. Superstars of Japanese Porn, Samurai Pervert, Tokyo Nightlife. Ultimate interactive elements of desire. Movies. Okay, those are just movies here. I'm not. There are pictures here. Interactive, probably the interactive ones. My teaser, of course. That's actually was on the 3DO. They had some Vivid games from Vivid on the 3DO, including The Coven and Blonde Justice. Of course, Janine was pretty hot back in the day until she uglified herself with all those icky tattoos. Winner Takes All is another game that I wish I could try to find. That one I know I had Ginger Lynn on the cover, so hoping I can try to find that one. Fortunately, I asked Bounty Hunter. I actually have this game on the 3DO, and they had a PlayStation remaster of it, which you can use your PlayStation Move. I mean, on the PlayStation 3, which you can use the PlayStation Move controller for, and the light gun attachment, which was actually a pretty cool thing. And I actually had fun revisiting that game that way. I'm just hoping that they actually re-release this game again. I mean, along with the other American Laser games that are like that. There's so much more re-releases they need. We're just about done here now, so. Best of both worlds. Game lovers. Video Game Solution CD. Create your own video games. Nice. From Microform. NASCAR. Ace. Okay. What the hell was that? Okay. Gabriel Knight's Into the Father. It's another good game. Wing Commander 3 is another good one, of course. Heretic, and cheat codes. Colonizing cheats. Warcraft. Risky. That new quiz game. Oh, there's something I found in the adult section of the magazine. The entertainment. Go Digital Interactive Magazine. Basically, I don't know. It's not really an adult magazine, but kind of. Yeah, it kind of is. Need a Fox? Well, it's actually for mature audience. It's CD magazine. Okay. Oh, just about there. BioForge is another one, those games that's on GOG. And Retro Mags. And what's that one? Yep, that's actually the Retro Mags. That's where I downloaded this one magazine from. So that's pretty much it. 151 pages altogether here. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that. Please do leave a... I hope you enjoyed... Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed me revisiting my past memories on one magazine that's involved in PC gaming from 1995, the April issue. Though I didn't have a PC... Though I didn't have a computer at the time, and I was only strict to gaming regardless, I didn't get a chance to play these games until years later. Anyway, that's pretty much all there is to it. I want to say thank you all very much for taking the time with me for going over my memories with that one issue of PC Gamer from 1995. I actually made a lot of discoveries about PC gaming around that time, inside that magazine, as well as introducing to some adult games, which I eventually got around to get my hands on for all the games sooner or later, within the next 20 or 30 years. But I was very happy to revisit that magazine to share with you my memories, and I will be making references of that magazine as I go on, like with the upcoming Alone in the Dark 3 story review episode that I'm currently working on. Anyway, this is Dixon, and of course, the lovely Tiffany back there. Plot of the Ultimate Gaming Room. Logging off.